As you may have observed, besides my German videos, I started to translate the videos in English as well. In the future, there will be every video in both languages available. I hope to grow my English community as well as the German. And now to the video. Watching the history of Formula 1, everyone sees how the racing cars changed since the beginning of the Formula World Championship in 1950. But many forget what changed in a different way: the tires of the car. No matter if we talk about the high-tech-rubber of the current generation or the giant wheels of the 1950s, one thing hasn't changed. The tires are the only contact of the cars to the racetrack, and the area where tires touches the street is often not bigger than the size of your palm. Let's find out how the tires of the age of Fangio and Moss changed to the likes of today's drivers like Verstappen, Hamilton and Norris. The first Formula 1 races are raced by professional factory teams like Alfa Romeo, Ferrari and Mercedes on one hand, but also by private teams with so-called gentleman drivers on the other hand. But in the beginning, even the factory teams enter with old pre-war racing cars. Therefore, the first Formula 1 world champion, Nino Farina, takes the title for Alfa Romeo with an old Alfetta 158, which is already 13 years old. Accordingly careless they are with the tires. Although even in those years the cars already do about 400 horsepower, the tires come directly from normal street cars, where on the inside is cotton with normal rubber on it. The tires are enormous big, which isn't very aerodynamic, but these days nobody cares about aerodynamics. And the tires are narrow, which makes the contact area to the street very small. You may say the cars are designed to go straight. Speeds of about 240 km per hour are already possible, but they aren't built to go well in corners. These days the driver turns sharp into the corner, nothing much happens, and you wait until oversteer ends. The front tires get grip and the car is forced into the corner. Then the driver accelerates, the car begins to oversteer and you drift through the corner. And we haven't even talked about the brakes, which are common drum brakes, respect to those drivers. For the first years, the Italian tire manufacturer Pirelli dominates because of the fact that its tires are extremely robust. From today's point of view, unbelievable. Every time decides for themselves which tires are used. Therefore, tires of Firestone, Dunlop and the Belgian Engelbert are used. The Belgian manufacturer is the most successful tire supplier next to Pirelli, but after a tragic accident during the Mille Miglia in 1957, where a Ferrari on Engelbert tires crashes when one of the tire bursts and 9 people are killed, it's over for the Belgians. They are bought by Uniroyal and later Continental and vanish. At the end of the 50s, Formula 1 cars change. More and more teams transfer their engines from the front to the back of the car, to balance the weight better, which is more stress for the driving axle. Now enter the English tire manufacturer Dunlop, which trigger a revolution with their R5. The inner cotton is changed to nylon, which makes the tires more robust and 5 kilo lighter. 5 kilos per tire. In addition, they begin to change the natural rubber to synthetic. The tires become smaller but wider. The drivers of the 60s have double the surface to the track than Fangio had. Dunlop's innovation makes the manufacturer to the sole supplier of tires in Formula 1 for the next years, until Firestone and Goodyear enter the stage in the middle of the 60s, and Dunlop falls back. Later, the English are bought by Goodyear. A tire war between Firestone and Goodyear starts at the end of the 60s to the beginning of the 70s. The tires still have tread until something strange occurs in Maranello in 1971. The story goes that Firestone wants to produce tailor-made tires for the Ferraris. Therefore, they send tires which don't have tread yet, so that a technician of Firestone should cut them as best as possible for the new Ferrari. The technician is late, and the commentatore Enzo Ferrari becomes impatient. He sends out Jackie X to test, even though the tires aren't ready, and strangely the traction and the speed in the corners is better. The slick tire is born. Depending on the racetrack, the cars are up to 3 seconds faster than with the normal treaded tires. Goodyear dominates Formula 1. But Formula 1 during the 70s is all about aerodynamics, which drastically increases traction and corner speeds. And this almost asks too much of the tires. Michelin invents the Radial Tyre, which are made of a single layer of steel cord plies and therefore makes the tire more robust. Jody Scheckter wins the 1979 Formula 1 World Championship as the first driver on radial tires. For a short period, Michelin breaks the dominance of Goodyear in Formula 1 until the Americans catch up. These days, the teams begin to experiment with cars with more than 4 wheels. Tyrrell designer Derek Gardner builds the Tyrrell P34, which has 4 front tires with only 10-inch. The idea is that the 4 front tires have more contact to the surface of the track, which should be positive for braking and steering. In addition, the smaller tires have less drag than the normal front tires of the other cars. And during rain, the front tires get the water away for the benefit of the back front tires, which should have more grip as a result. So, theory looks great. Reality not so much. Braking is bad, and the car with 6 wheels is hard to set up for the race. In addition, beside Tyrrell, no other team uses the small 10-inch tires. Therefore, tire manufacturer Goodyear doesn't develop them any further. But against all odds, the Tyrrell P34 wins at least one race, the Swedish Grand Prix in 1976, with a 1-2 finish. But after the 1977 season, Tyrrell changes to 4 wheels again. The Tyrrell P34 doesn't stay the only car with more than 4 wheels. There were several designs, but they never made it to the starting grid. The March 240, first introduced in December of 1976, also has 6 wheels, but it has 4 rear wheels. They use the normal front tires for the rear wheels, which should increase traction and acceleration. Unfortunately, in 1977, March is out of money and cannot develop the idea any longer. Therefore, the March 240 never makes it to a race. As even BRM seems to work on a car similar to the March, soon rumors say that Ferrari works on a 6-wheel car as well. 3 months, nothing happens. Then, in March of 1977, Niki Lauda does some testing with his normal race car, the 312 T2 in Fiorano. After ending of the testing, Santi Ghedini, the PR guy of Ferrari, asks the present journalist to not shoot any photos. The big surprise, Lauda is testing the new 312 T6 with 6 wheels, 4 rear tires. Smaller than the normal rear tires and situated next to each other, like twin tires on a truck on one driving axle. Advantage: less drag because of the smaller tires and better traction as the stress divides on more wheels. But the car exceeds the maximum width, the wheels have to be transferred to the center. Therefore, even the gearbox has to be changed. In addition, in a corner, the wheels on the outside have to turn faster, so they need a differential. In the end, the Ferrari 312 T6 has the same problem as the Tyrrell P34. Goodyear doesn't develop the tires, which are used any further. And more, Niki Lauda is somehow optimistic over the 6-wheel car, but second driver Carlos Reutemann hates the concept. In the end, because of the success of the 312 T2, which gives Lauda his second championship, the 312 T6 isn't developed any further. In 1982, Williams has a disadvantage against the turbo-powered cars, as they only have the naturally aspirated Ford Cosworth engine. So they experiment with 4 rear wheels like the March 240. For the 1982 season, they built the FW08 with 4 wheels, and in addition the FW08B with 6 wheels. Although the 6-wheel car is much heavier than the 4-wheel car, the 6-wheel car should make that up and even be faster. Unfortunately, before beginning of the season, cars with 4-wheel drive are forbidden. Therefore, the FW08B never sees a starting grid. Rumors say that during testing it was several seconds faster than the previous car, but we will never know. At the beginning of the 80s, Michelin challenges Goodyear again, this time with qualifying tires with a special compound for over-the-top performance for only 1 or 2 laps. Then they fall off a cliff. At the climax of the tire war, teams changed the tire manufacturer from one race to another. From 1985 on, the teams start to use tire heating blankets, which brings the tires to the right temperature sooner. It's also 1985 that Goodyear is sole supplier of Formula One, until in 1998 Bridgestone enters Formula One and wins more races than Goodyear right from the start. Goodyear quits Formula One in 1999. The reason is that Formula One instructs teams to have groove tires to decrease grip and slow down the cars. In addition, the tire compounds have to be harder to slow down even more. Therefore, the cars could do almost a full race length without any tire change. Bridgestone becomes sole supplier and is often criticized to favor one team, Ferrari, against the other teams. Ferrari on Bridgestones is dominant in the first years of 2000, but then comes the time for Michelin again, who, with Renault, are the fastest in 2005 and 2006. Unfortunately, it is 2005 when the scandal of Indianapolis happens. The Grand Prix of the USA is held at Indianapolis. One part of the track consists of the oval speedway, which becomes turn 13 with banked and high speeds, and the other part is a series of corners in the infield of the oval, which suggests that the tires cannot manage the stress. The worst crash happens to Ralf Schumacher in his Toyota, who has a big shunt in turn 13, similar to the crash 1 year ago where he broke his vertebra. Michelin has to announce officially that the Michelin-supplied cars can only participate in the race if a chicane before turn 13 decreases the speed of the cars. The discussions last until 15 minutes to the start of the race. All cars stand on the starting grid and go on formation lap. But the Michelin cars don't go to their starting positions but enter the pits and retire. Only the 6 Bridgestone cars, 2 Ferrari, 2 Jordans and 2 Minardis start the race, while the American spectators watch and protest furiously. Michelin's dominance stays in 2006, but the rift between Formula One and Michelin stays as well, and the French leave Formula One at the end of 2006. Bridgestone stays sole supplier until 2011 and observes the return of the slicks in 2009. For 2011, a new tire contract is announced. Michelin and Goodyear are interested alongside Pirelli, but Formula One wants new tires, which on purpose aren't that robust to have more pit stops and more strategy. Michelin and Goodyear reject, as they don't want Formula One to tell them how to develop their tires. Therefore, Pirelli becomes the sole tire supplier who obeys to the wishes of Formula One. But at the beginning too much, as the tires are too fragile in the first season. Meanwhile, Pirelli and the teams can manage the tires. But if you have differences in lap time of up to 6 seconds between qualifying and race, some may ask if those fragile tires, which cannot be driven with 100%, are the right thing for the peak of motor racing. On the other hand, we had a Grand Prix at Qatar in 2023, where Pirelli had to limit the amount of laps per tire because of concerns with the curbs, and therefore the drivers drove flat out most of the time, which resulted in drivers almost collapsing during the race, and not only because of the heat. It seems that we steer right into a dead-end street, but I can be wrong. What is your opinion about the tire situation in Formula 1? Write me in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this journey through the history of tires in Formula 1. If so, like and subscribe, you know how to do it. And keep racing.